I never signed up for this. Precisely what the message stated, a terse 5-word proclamation beneath a screenshot of our depleted joint checking account. My name is actually Mark. I'm 35, and chief mechanic at Peterson's auto repair in Boise. 4 hours prior, I'd been sitting in an oncologist's office, absorbing terms like Hodgkin's lymphoma, treatment protocols, and survival statistics. Stage 2. Treatable, certainly, but a lengthy journey lay ahead. I contacted my wife Sarah, from the parking lot, suggesting we meet at home to discuss. She claimed to be preoccupied with errands, and would return later. Upon arriving home, I discovered half the closet emptied, her luggage vanished, and our wedding photograph removed from the bedside table. Then the text appeared, accompanied by the aforementioned screenshot demonstrating she'd transferred our entire savings, $42,000 meticulously accumulated over 6 years, to an account solely in her name. I stared at the message for a full minute, composed a 2-word reply, "Take care," then deactivated my phone, cracked open a cold one, and settled onto our back porch to observe the sunset. I didn't weep, didn't unleash my fury. I simply sat, absorbing the seismic shift in my reality. The cancer was a challenge I could confront. The betrayal, however, was a different beast altogether. My neighbor David noticed my solitary vigil and approached the fence. "Everything all right?" he inquired. He'd witnessed Sarah speeding away earlier, her vehicle crammed full. "Received some unsettling medical news," I replied.
"He didn't handle it well."
David nodded sympathetically, refraining from further probing. "Let me know if you need anything. My wife Susan makes a phenomenal lasagna."
"I appreciate that," I acknowledged.
After he departed, I retrieved a file my Uncle Robert had provided the previous month. He'd recently retired from estate planning, but remained actively involved. Following my grandfather's passing in January, and his bequest of a small parcel of land in the mountains, Robert had assisted me with the necessary documentation. Everyone needs their affairs in order, he'd stressed, especially when married. Protect each other. I'd initiated the process, updated my will, designated Sarah as co-owner of the '72 Mustang I'd painstakingly restored, though I hadn't yet submitted the final paperwork to the DMV, and established a separate account at a different financial institution for the land sale proceeds. All to safeguard us, to protect her. The irony was striking. I contacted Robert. "Remember our discussion about estate planning? I need to make some adjustments."
A pause followed.
"Everything all right, Mark?" he asked.
"Oh," I responded, "but it will be."
I encountered Sarah at my friend John's wedding in 2015. She worked as a paralegal at a prominent downtown law firm. Intelligent, quick-witted, and undeniably beautiful. We moved in together after 6 months, married the following year. The initial years were blissful. We diligently saved for a home, eventually finding a fixer-upper in a desirable neighborhood. Weekends were devoted to renovations, cabinet replacements, floor refinishing, plumbing upgrades, while Sarah selected paint schemes and furnishings. We chronicled our progress online, hailing ourselves a renovation success story. My father passed away when I was 12. My mother, a school teacher, raised my sister and me. She instilled in us the values of hard work, fiscal responsibility, and always having a contingency plan. After my mother's passing 2 years ago, that contingency plan became paramount. Sarah came from a vastly different background. Her parents provided her with everything: college tuition, a new car every few years, the down payment on our home. They never truly understood her marriage to a mechanic. Her father, a corporate lawyer, always introduced me as Sarah's husband, never using my name. In retrospect, I recognized the warning signs emerged long before my diagnosis. 3 months prior, Sarah began discussing a move to Seattle, citing better career prospects. I resisted. My job was secure, we had a strong social circle, and the house was nearly paid off. She grew quiet after those conversations, distant, spending more time with friends I'd never met. Then came the subtle, stinging barbs. "Don't you aspire to something more fulfilling than fixing cars?" My college roommate's husband had just become a partner at his firm. They were building a vacation home. I often wondered what my life would be like had I relocated to Denver after college instead of staying put. I chose to ignore the red flags, telling myself all marriages experience rough patches. We'd work through it, I believed. Even when I discovered a business card for a Seattle apartment complex tucked into her purse, I didn't confront her. I quietly called Uncle Robert to discuss updating our legal documents, meticulously documenting our assets, just in case. 2 weeks later, I sought medical attention for what I initially believed to be a persistent cold. Instead, I discovered swollen lymph nodes. Then came the blood tests, the biopsy, the diagnosis. The night before receiving the final diagnosis, Sarah and I dined at our kitchen table. She recounted a coworker's promotion. I scrutinized her face, wondering if she'd perceived my fear. "Everything all right?" she finally asked. "Yeah," I lied, "just tired." She nodded, and continued eating, offering no further inquiry, no genuine glance my way. That should have been my epiphany. 3 days after Sarah's departure, I began chemotherapy. The initial session proved more debilitating than anticipated. The nurse guided me to a recliner, attached the IV, and inquired about my transportation arrangements. "Took a ride share," I replied. "My wife is out of state." She gave me an unreadable expression before patting my arm. "The first one's the toughest. We'll get through this." I nodded, unable to trust my voice. I hadn't informed anyone, except David, that Sarah was gone for good, not merely out of town. Vocalizing it somehow felt like amplifying the reality, the shame. Upon returning home, I found a lasagna on my porch with a note from Susan, "Made too much. Enjoy." I knew it was a gentle falsehood, but I appreciated the gesture nonetheless. I attempted to eat, but my stomach rebelled. I collapsed onto the bathroom floor, drenched in sweat, trembling, utterly alone. That evening, I called my sister Emily, in Portland, revealing everything: the cancer, Sarah, the money. She wanted to rush up immediately, but I asked her to wait. I needed to resolve some matters first. The next morning, I contacted my bank. I discovered Sarah had emptied our accounts 40 minutes after my call from the doctor's office, before she even knew the specifics. She simply knew I was ill, and that was sufficient impetus for her flight. Something within me shifted. The sadness hardened into something else, not anger precisely, but resolve. I drove to Uncle Robert's residence that afternoon, bringing all our financial records and property documentation. "She can't just abscond with your money like that," he remarked, reviewing the statements. "Joint account," I reminded him. "Her name is on it too." Robert removed his reading glasses. "Mark, what she did wasn't just callous, it might have been illegal. Embezzling all the funds, knowing you're ill, knowing you'll incur substantial medical expenses." "Could I prove her knowledge?" He pondered for a moment. "Phone records would corroborate my call immediately after the appointment. The bank statement would indicate the precise timing of her transfer, and my diagnosis date was documented." I produced my phone, showing him Sarah's text. "I didn't sign up for this." Robert's expression hardened. "That's quite incriminating." We spent the next 3 hours devising a strategy, focusing on the Mustang title transfer, the land sale, my medical insurance and treatment costs, meticulously documenting every detail. As I left Robert's, my phone buzzed, an email from Sarah's cousin Jessica, who had always been kind to me. "Mark, I heard what transpired. I'm so sorry. I'm baffled by Sarah's actions. I just wanted you to know, I'm here for you, if you need anything." I contemplated the message for a prolonged period, then replied, "Does Sarah know about my diagnosis?" Jessica's response was swift. "Yes, she informed everyone of your cancer, but claimed she couldn't cope and needed a fresh start. My entire family is appalled. This is unacceptable." I expressed my gratitude and deactivated my phone. I drove home with the windows down, feeling the summer breeze on my face. For the first time since the diagnosis, clarity dawned. I knew precisely what I needed to do. 2 weeks into treatment, I received a letter from Sarah's lawyer. She was seeking a divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, requesting removal from the mortgage but demanding half the home's equity. No mention of the misappropriated funds, no acknowledgement of my illness. I presented the letter to Robert. "Bold move," he observed, scanning the document. "Takes all your savings, knowing you're sick, then demands half the house. What's our approach?" "Let's not respond yet," Robert advised. "Let's see how far she's willing to push this." "Mark, being childish won't help. I know you're going through a rough patch, but I have rights too." "Going through a rough patch?" As if cancer were a fleeting mood swing to be overcome. I blocked the number. My third chemo session proved brutal. I couldn't retain food for 2 days, losing 10 pounds. Emily finally arrived from Portland, remaining for a week, cleaning the house, stocking the freezer with meals, and driving me to appointments. The day before her departure, another letter arrived from Sarah's lawyer. More demands, more threats regarding my supposed obligations. Emily was furious. After what she did. She's fortunate you haven't sued her for the stolen money. We'll get there, I replied. The following week, I received a certified letter from the bank. Sarah had attempted to remove my name from our joint credit cards, but was unable to do so without my signature. She'd also tried to access our safe deposit box, containing the house deed, the Mustang title, and my grandfather's will, but the bank denied her access due to lack of the second key, my key. I immediately called Robert. She's becoming desperate, he stated, likely realizing she left loose ends. What's the next move? Let's secure that safe deposit box. Transfer everything to a new one, solely in your name. And I believe it's time to finalize those title changes for the Mustang. You changed the Mustang title? That car is half mine. You put my name on it. I stared at the message. How did she know already? I'd only filed the paperwork that morning. Then it clicked. She must have an inside source at the DMV, or the bank, someone monitoring my actions. I contacted Robert. I suspect she has an accomplice, someone informing her of my moves. Robert paused. Her father has connections. I wouldn't rule him out. What do we do? Let's misdirect them, Robert proposed. We'll lay a trap. The next day I contacted the realtor handling my grandfather's land sale, requesting a pause in the process, carefully mentioning I was exploring alternative methods of asset liquidation. Then I called my investment firm, inquiring about early withdrawal procedures from my small 401k, making it clear I was considering all options due to medical expenses. I waited to see Sarah's next move. 2 days later, her lawyer sent a new letter, demanding a portion of any proceeds from the sale of inherited property and a fair division of all retirement accounts. Robert smiled upon seeing the letter. She'd taken the bait. What? I asked. Now we reveal our hand, he replied. The ensuing month was dedicated to my health. The treatments were arduous, but the doctors expressed cautious optimism. My hair was gone, I'd lost 25 pounds, but my numbers were improving. Emily visited every other weekend. David and Susan checked on me daily. My employer reduced my hours but maintained my health insurance. I was surviving both the cancer and Sarah's departure. Some days were more challenging than others. Some nights, I woke up reaching for someone who wasn't there. But mostly I remained focused on the next step, the next treatment, the next strategic move in the chess game Sarah had initiated. Robert called on a Tuesday morning. We obtained the documents from her bank. Care to guess what she did with your money? Tell me. Transferred it to a new account, then immediately wrote a check for $30,000 to her parents. I sat down. Why would she do that? My suppositions, an attempt at concealment, making it more difficult to trace or recover. Could she get away with that? No, Robert stated.
That's the brilliance of it.
She transferred joint funds during a known medical crisis, then attempted to conceal the money through a third party. The judge will not appreciate that.
I considered this.
I don't desire a protracted legal battle, Robert. I lack the energy for that right now. Trust me, he assured me. It won't reach that point. Once her lawyer sees our evidence, they'll settle. 2 days later, while leaving a treatment session, I spotted a familiar vehicle in the hospital parking lot. Sarah's father's silver BMW. He sat behind the wheel, observing the hospital entrance, watching me.
I walked directly to his car and knocked on the window.
He lowered it, his face impassive, that familiar lawyerly demeanor. Mark, you look unwell. Cancer has that effect. What brings you here? Sarah is concerned. She says you're being unreasonable regarding the divorce proceedings.
I almost laughed.
Is that how she characterizes it? Unreasonable?
She's prepared to be generous, given your circumstances.
A fair division of assets, including the house. After she'd pilfered every cent we possessed, after abandoning me the day of my diagnosis, he had the decency to appear uncomfortable. She was upset, emotional.
People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate choice.
He sighed. Mark, be pragmatic. You're ill. Focus on recovery. Not a legal battle you can't afford. That's when it hit me.
They believed I was desperate, destitute after Sarah had plundered our accounts. They assumed I'd accept any settlement to avoid a confrontation. They had no inkling of the land sale. No idea I'd removed her name from the Mustang title. No idea I'd documented everything. Inform Sarah I'll respond to her lawyer by Friday, I stated, turning to depart.
Mark, he called out. Don't make this more difficult than necessary. I didn't look back. On Thursday, I met with Robert and the real estate attorney he'd engaged. Catherine Lee. We reviewed everything. The bank records, Sarah's text message, Jessica's witness statement, my medical documentation. This is a clear-cut case of financial abandonment, Catherine declared, coupled with an attempt to conceal marital assets. No judge will view this favorably. What's our strategy? I inquired. We file our own divorce petition, she replied. We demonstrate abandonment during a medical crisis, financial malfeasance, and attempted concealment of funds. We request full restitution of the missing funds, plus legal fees. Will that work? I asked. Catherine smiled. I've never encountered a more straightforward case, but I don't anticipate it reaching court. Once they see our evidence, they'll capitulate, and if they don't, then we proceed to court, and she loses everything, including her reputation. For the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. On Friday morning, Catherine submitted our response to Sarah's lawyer, a comprehensive divorce filing with all the evidence meticulously detailed. By midday, Sarah's lawyer requested an urgent meeting. That was swift, I told Robert on the phone. They weren't expecting you to be armed, he responded. They assumed you were too ill, too impoverished, or too demoralized to fight back. The meeting was scheduled for Monday. I spent the weekend resting, mentally preparing. On Sunday night, a text arrived from yet another new number. This is cruel, Mark. I made a mistake. But this is vindictive. My parents can't return the money immediately. You're trying to destroy me. I stared at the screen. Vindictive? I wasn't the one who abandoned a sick spouse and stole their life savings. I wasn't the one hiding behind lawyers and parents. For the first time, I texted back, actions have consequences. Monday morning, I met Robert and Catherine at her office. They wanted me present, but advised silence. Unless directly questioned. Sarah arrived with her father and her lawyer, a gaunt man with expensive eyewear and a perpetual frown. She looked remarkably well, tanned, rested, as though the past few months had been a vacation while I fought for my life. She avoided my gaze. Her lawyer spoke first. We've reviewed your filing. While we disagree with your interpretation of events, my client is willing to negotiate a settlement to avoid unnecessary conflict. Catherine smiled. Let me be clear. This isn't a negotiation. It's a courtesy meeting before we proceed to court. Your client abandoned her husband upon his cancer diagnosis, emptied their joint accounts, attempted to conceal those funds through her parents, and then demanded additional assets. We have irrefutable evidence. Sarah shifted in her seat. Her father leaned forward. Surely we can reach a reasonable. Your daughter transferred her husband's emergency medical funds to you. Catherine interrupted. We have the check records. Will you be returning those funds today, or shall we include you in the lawsuit for accepting fraudulently obtained marital assets? The room fell silent. Sarah's lawyer cleared his throat. What precisely are you demanding? Full restitution of the $42,000. Sarah to relinquish all claims to the house, the Mustang, my grandfather's land, and my retirement accounts. She would assume responsibility for all legal fees. In return, I would not pursue criminal charges for financial fraud and abandonment. This is highway robbery, Sarah's father muttered. No, Catherine calmly replied. Robbery is what your daughter perpetrated. This is justice. The meeting concluded with Sarah's lawyer requesting 48 hours to consider our terms. As we exited the conference room, Sarah attempted to make eye contact. I walked past her without faltering. In the elevator, Robert squeezed my shoulder. You did well in there. I didn't do anything, I replied. Just sat there. Sometimes that's the most difficult part, he acknowledged. 2 days later, Catherine called. Sarah had accepted all our terms. Her parents would return the full $42,000 within 30 days. She would sign the relinquishment papers. It's over, Catherine announced. You won. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the premature conclusion of something I'd once believed would endure forever. Like closing a book mid-narrative. Still, for the first time since my diagnosis, I slept soundly through the night. The settlement arrived precisely 30 days later. A cashier's check for the full $42,000. I deposited it immediately, then contacted my oncologist's office to settle my medical bills. The nurse who'd been with me from the first treatment, Anna, was at the reception desk. You're looking better, she remarked. Your latest results were excellent. Feeling better too, I said, handing her the check. She glanced at the amount. Insurance covered it. Something like that, I replied. The divorce was finalized a week later. I signed the papers at Catherine's office, feeling strangely bereft. Not sad, not angry, just finished. What's next? Robert inquired as we left the building. Complete treatment. Recover. Determine what comes next. He nodded. The land sale should close next month. That's another 70. And if you decide to sell the Mustang? Not yet, I replied. I'm not ready to relinquish everything. That evening, I sat on my back porch with a glass of water, watching the sunset. The chemotherapy-induced nausea had finally subsided. My hair was beginning to regrow, patchy but present. The doctors were using terms like responding well and positive prognosis. My phone buzzed. An email from Jessica, Sarah's cousin. Mark, I heard everything is finalized. I'm so sorry for what my family did to you. Sarah's parents are selling their lake house to repay what they owe you. My aunt is furious, blaming you instead of Sarah. But I wanted you to know some of us understand what truly happened. I hope you're doing better. You deserve it. I deactivated my phone without replying. I no longer needed to engage with Sarah's family drama. It was time to focus on healing, on rebuilding, on whatever lay ahead. Complete remission. I sat in her office, letting the news sink in. Not cured. Lymphoma could always return. But for now, the cancer was vanquished. The battle won. What's next? I asked. Regular checkups, blood work, scans every 6 months. But for now, Mark, you go live your life. That evening I made 2 calls. First to Emily, who shrieked with joy, then to my friend Kevin, in Billings, who'd been offering me a position at his custom auto shop for years. Still room for me? I asked. Absolutely, he replied. When can you start? A month later I sold the house in Boise. I used the proceeds to purchase a small cabin outside Billings, 2 bedrooms, a garage spacious enough for my tools and the Mustang, and breathtaking mountain vistas from every window. The day I departed Boise, David and Susan came to bid farewell. Susan handed me a lasagna for the road. I thanked them for everything. The meals, the lawn care, the silent support during my darkest hours. You doing okay? David inquired. Really okay? I considered this. Getting there. 3 months into my new life in Montana, I received a text from an unfamiliar number. Sarah again. I heard you're in remission. I'm glad. I know you won't believe this, but I think of you often. I made a terrible mistake. I was scared and selfish. I'm sorry, Mark, for everything. I survived. Be well. Then I blocked the number, deactivated my phone, and commenced work on the Mustang. Not to sell it, but to keep it, to restore it. This time solely for myself. Some things, once fractured, are irreparable, but others can be rebuilt, stronger than before. I was one of those.